This is the way it feels to move through summer in Lululemon. Iconic Align softness without the front seam. For our smoothest look and feel ever, summer won't know what hit it. Stretch your limits in the non-stop flexibility of the new Lululemon Align No-Line Pant in select stores and at Lululemon.com.
Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and each week I'm joined by a panel of guests to discuss all things fandom and pop culture, primarily from a female perspective. You'll find everything from fanfic, to cosplay, to Schitt's Creek, to Supernatural, and everything in between. So put on your favorite piece of fandom merch, set aside that fanfic that you're writing about your OTP, and sit back and enjoy this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Pop Culture and Fandom News. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and on Friday's episode, we are going to be talking about celebrity deaths that impacted us the hardest. So there will be trigger warnings, and I have joining me for this episode, and hopefully another person will be joining me as well. Hopefully Tiff. Tiff is having some technical issues, so hopefully Tiff will be joining us shortly. But joining me for this episode and for Friday's episode is the host of the new podcast, Okay Real Quick, Carla. Hello, Carla.
Hello, Erin. Hello, Fandom Thingers.
Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy to have you here. And like I said, hopefully Tiff will be joining us. If not, hopefully Tiff will be joining us on the next one. So if not on the pop culture, hopefully on the next one. But let's get started with some pop culture and fandom news. So, Carla, what is one thing in fandom or pop culture that you are into right now?
Well, Erin, I recently read a book, and it was a snooze fest. It's one of those things where, okay, you know how you hear about a book, and you read the premise of it, and you're like, oh, this is fascinating and timely, and I should definitely read this because it's a very important subject, and it's going to make me think a lot, and thinking is good and important. And then you're like, oh my God, is it over yet? Is it over yet? Is it over yet? However, okay, so the book is called Beyond Survival, Strategies and Stories from the Transformative Justice Movement. And there are so many interesting ideas in it, some of which I'm like, oh, in a perfect world, this would be great. And that's just kind of how I feel about the entire subject matter. I think it's one of those things where in a utopian society where people could be relied upon to hold themselves accountable and to do the work to become better people, this would be a really great idea. I do think that it's something that we should strive for as a society. I don't think we're there, and I think that there are some humans who are just never going to get there, no matter how much grace we give them. I love the idea. I don't think it's necessarily feasible. But I would love to read a book about it that answers some of the questions that I have and that isn't going to put me to sleep. That, I think, those two criteria would be great. Answer some questions, don't put me to sleep.
Especially don't put me to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, like, maybe there was something that did explain everything that I have a question about and I just zoned out during it. I don't think so, but it is entirely plausible.
Okay, so Tiff is here. So let me go to Tiff. So Tiff, what is one thing in fandom or pop culture that you're into right now?
Hi, hey, hello. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but I am here. I'm not just a ghost. I'm actually here. As I was telling the girls, it is 110 degrees in Phoenix. I'm sweaty. I'm in a state of just pure apoplexy, but I'm good. So what I'm into right now is the submarine implosion from the Titanic visit site. What was that? 2023 Ocean Gate. I watched both documentaries, one from Discovery Channel, and then one from Netflix. The Netflix one was a little bit longer, and that feels more, I'd say more movie-ish than the Discovery Channel one does. But let me tell you, the dude who was the head of OceanGate, the CEO, Stockton Rush, the biggest self-aggrandizing person you will ever see in your life. Ridiculous. And it was interesting because one of the engineers from Boeing actually said that he believed that the guy had trigger warning suicidal ideation. And that's why he was just bound and determined to do this, even though the safety concerns were right there. His director of marine operations told him, the Boeing engineers told him, there were cracks on this thing when they took it down. Unbelievable is basically. So if you want to see something that will get your blood pressure up, I'd say look at both of those because it's a bunch of nonsense. You see how the 1% thinks and how the utter hubris of things. And when I say he's the 1%, he is the 1%. Both sides of his family had signers of the Declaration of Independence. So he is the 1%. Yeah. Ridiculous, right?
Yeah. Which one is better?
You know what? I would say they're about on even keel. I mean, it's really apples to apples. If you're looking for something shorter, it's Discovery Channel. If you want something a little bit longer, but it's obviously Netflix, but it's the same details almost. I will say that I did like Discovery Channel's, they brought in Josh Gates, who does Expedition Unknown. Our other sexy lady, of course, Meg, that's one of her faves. And he said that he did a brief journey when they took that sub down to Bahamas, and they were doing like test dives down in the Bahamas at like trying to get to 4,000 feet. And Josh was in the sub, and I think they went down to about 1,000. And he said it was just weird because nothing seemed to work. That was his estimation, that nothing seemed to work. And that Stockton Rush was a salesperson. He wasn't anything having to do with submersibles.
Huh.
He didn't know what he was doing when it came to submersibles. So that was really interesting. So I think from that side of things, I think the Discovery Channel one was a little bit better, only because I really liked Josh Gates' take on it. And it was very cool because he told the head of Discovery Channel, nope, can't run it, can't do it. He said, this is dangerous. And I don't want to be a part of telling people that this was a good idea.
Huh. Yeah. I haven't watched any of them yet, but I've heard like people saying one is better than the other. And then one, because I know the Discovery one, you can watch that on HBO Max too. So yeah.
Yes. I watched it I didn't even know about either one of them. And I watched it on Discovery. I just happened to be flipping through the channels and I saw it and I was like, okay, well, let's take a look, see what it's about. And then I didn't know about the Netflix one. So I looked up the Netflix one and blasted through that one. So it will definitely push your pressure for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to check those out. Yeah. It's interesting when that happens where they do two different documentaries at the same time. It happens all the time, it seems like lately. And it's usually like Netflix and Hulu, but so I'll have to check that out.
That's a good comparison. It is always like back to back with two different networks. Oh, one other thing about them being the 1%. Stockton Rush's wife is the great granddaughter of Isidore and Ida Strauss, who died on the Titanic and were the founders of the Macy's group.
Wow.
So how's that for coincidence and just utter utter chaos?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm mentioning this and then it's going to play into what I'm going to mention in the next segment, but I saw The Materialists and it's interesting because my main points on this movie make it seem like I didn't like this movie. I did like this movie. I would give it a 7 out of 10. I do think this movie is not a rom-com. It's like the furthest thing from being a romantic comedy. It was marketed terribly, in my opinion. And trigger warnings that this movie deals with a sexual assault. You'd never see the sexual assault, but it happens about midway into the movie. And it's a very pivotal thing for the film. I know a lot of people are saying that is not that was horrible to put that in there. That was a stupid thing to have in there. I think it actually really works with what the movie really is. And so I had no problem with that. I will say, and this is going to get me a lot of hate, I thought Pedro Pascal was so damn boring in this movie. He was like, it was his character. It's not him. It's his character. Snooze fest galore. I just was like, okay. And Chris Evans, who I'm not really a big fan of anyway, was just a step above snooze inducing. So the two lead men are nothing to me. I didn't care about any kind of love story in this movie. I just thought it was an interesting examination of Dakota Johnson's character and also of like what we look for in relationships and how, sometimes the facade of looking for like specific people that meet specific criteria, especially someone who's going to be wealthy or someone who's going to be able to take care of you, can sometimes overshadow looking for love. And I thought that was an interesting message and an interesting thing to talk about, especially on the backdrop of having someone be a matchmaker. When it first started, it reminded me so much of the reality show that I actually used to watch a lot. I know it's horrible, but Millionaire Matchmaker with Patty Singer, who's one of the worst human beings in the world. Horrible person.
Just awful.
Horrible. Awful. But it really reminded me of that show. It was like, yes, this is the way those shows went, and those were real people. And so I thought that was an interesting story to tell. And I think Dakota Johnson's character is getting a little bit too much hate personally. I think she's in pain, and I think she deserves therapy, and she just deserves to be able to find and discover herself. I mixed on the ending. I kind of liked what they were trying to do. It didn't really work entirely for me, but I actually really liked it only because I liked what they were trying to explore with the Dakota Johnson character. So I'm sorry about what I'm saying about Pedro Pascal. I'm really sorry. I like Pedro Pascal a lot. When I first saw the trailers, I was like, how would this even be a choice between these two men? And then I was like, oh my gosh, does this person have anything going on other than the fact that they're rich? And that's probably the point. But I just was like, I don't know. I don't think she should be with any of them.
Suddenly, like, there'll be half the people in the Discord server rage quitting.
Well, I did put that in the Discord server. I did, but I'm not trying to put him down. It's just the character is not. Any actor in that would have been like a snooze fest, in my opinion. It wasn't the actor; it was the character. And also, I do want to say though, this went into my ongoing problem that I have with any movies or television shows where there is a romantic couple or hints at a romantic couple. Please make sure your actors have chemistry, because Dakota Johnson doesn't have chemistry with either of these men. They do not have chemistry. And I think it's essential if you're trying to root for people to be together that they have chemistry. And not just that they're both pretty people. That doesn't matter. They have to have chemistry, and I just didn't see it. So even though it sounds like I didn't like this movie, I actually really did like this movie. I really loved Alamo's pre-show for this movie because they did a lot of clips from horrible dating shows and stuff. And then they did do these YouTube compilations of romantic comedies, which this wasn't romantic comedy, but I did like the YouTube compilations just because they were cute. And then they did a couple of like Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans comparisons. And then those were kind of cute. So I recommend it, but remember, if you haven't seen it, this is not a rom-com at all. So if you're going in there for a romantic comedy, this isn't it. There's some funny lines, a few of them, but it's really not funny. And there is discussion of a sexual assault. So just a heads up on that. I do think Celine Song, though, is an amazing filmmaker and an amazing writer and director. And if you haven't seen Past Lives before, watch that as well. So, yeah, that's what I'm sort of into. Kind of like last week when I was like, I guess I'm into 28 Weeks Later, but I'm not really.
I'm into the fact that I watched this movie.
Yeah.
But you're so right. It was not a rom-com.
No.
I don't know where they got that idea that it was a rom-com. There was no comedy in this movie. Zero comedy.
Yeah, I think they were just trying to draw in a crowd that has been desperate for content, people that love rom-coms. And so I think they were just doing that. So, yeah. Although I've heard some people argue for this being a romantic comedy, but I think it's just, bad marketing, frankly. But we're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about one thing in pop culture or fandom that we are excited, upset, etc. about.
With a Venmo debit card, you can Venmo more than just your friends. You can use your balance in so many ways. You can Venmo everything. Need gas? You can Venmo this. How about snacks? You can Venmo that. Your favorite band's merch? You can Venmo this. Or their next show? You can Venmo that. Visit Venmo.me/debit to learn more.
You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo.
The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Card may be used everywhere MasterCard is accepted. Venmo purchase restrictions apply.
So, Carla, what is one thing in pop culture or fandom that you are excited about, upset about, etc. about?
I am very upset. Libby may lose funding for ebooks and audiobooks, and that's just, it's an absolute travesty. There's already so much that we're losing because of the current administration. And the Wired article that I'm looking at says the DOGE axe comes for libraries and museums. And I mean, duh, like that's where this is coming from. Because if anything, I feel like more people are using Libby now than before. And that's the whole point. It's about removing access to information, because how do revolutions start? It's with education. You learn something is unjust, you learn how it's unjust, and then you want to do something about it. So, they're trying to remove every means of education. They're trying to remove every means of communication and support for people who don't want what's happening to be happening. And, on a personal level, I also hate it because Libby is one of the apps that I use the most now. It's the way that I access books most frequently. I've come to find that I do better with audiobooks. In my current stage in life, audiobooks are it for me. I don't have time to sit down and read, but I have time to carry a book with me and listen to it while I do other stuff. So just, it sucks, to put it bluntly. It's awful, and it's a slap in the face to just everybody, because I think everybody should have access to information. Access to education is already curtailed just to a ridiculous degree, and this is certainly not helping matters. But again, that's the point. It's about keeping people from knowing things. We're in a very anti-intellectual, anti-education administration, and even before this administration, and even before it the first time, there was this rise in people hating people who know things. Just the idea that you're elitist and a snob because you happen to know something. It says a lot about where we are as a country and where we are as just humanity in general. And it makes me angry and it makes me sad, because I want more people to have a way to do something that is enjoyable. Reading is enjoyable. Even when you read a book that is incredibly boring and that makes you want to sleep, and that you forget whether or not you may have read a section that actually wasn't boring and that answered all of your questions, reading is still pleasurable. So to have that taken away, even curtailed, not even taken away, but just curtailed, is really saddening.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's not small by any stretch of the imagination, but it's one of those things that is more under the radar. of all the stuff that is happening that's leading to full-blown fascism.
Yeah.
So that's just one of the things. That is totally part of that. That taking away funding from public broadcasting is part of that too.
Yes.
All of that is part of fascism. Arresting journalists,
Yeah.
it's all the same thing. To telling people that are visiting here from other countries that they have to allow people to look at their social media to see what they might be posting that will not be permitted. That is fascism right there.
Yep.
And this is part of that. So it's very sad.
And, the whole thing with removing funding for libraries and museums. Already, libraries were struggling in a lot of ways. So this is just an added layer of cruelty to that. You're going to end up having just... Side note, I don't know if you've heard about the Boca Aquarium. It's not an aquarium. It's a jewelry store that advertises itself as an aquarium. I kid you not. You not. Yes. Oh my God. It's this whole thing. This woman was looking up things to do with her toddlers. And she's like, oh, there's an aquarium in Boca. And she read through the page and she's like, cool, I'm going to take my kids to the aquarium. So she packs up her kids and she packs a bag because if you're going to an aquarium with children, you need stuff. So she shows up and she's like, hey. And she's in her TikTok, she's like, the people here were very nice and they were very, like they took us on a tour of all of the fish tanks that they have. It's a jewelry store with fish tanks. And, they were very nice. It's not for me. I'm not coming back. And then they turn around and put out all of these like TikToks making fun of her. And that's why it blew up. It would have just died down if they hadn't done that. But anyway, you're going to end up having to go to jewelry stores and look at fish tanks.
Wow.
That's bananas.
It's cuckoo bananas. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So there's a whole other thing about that, but like that's a whole other rabbit hole that nobody has time for except for me. Me and Carla Markey, because the way I found it out is on his YouTube channel.
Wow, though, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Yes. So, support your libraries where you can, while you can say stuff. If you can donate, like if you can write in, I think, and say like what you want to see on Libby as well. Like if they know there's more demand for it, sometimes that can make a difference. So, try and use your libraries if you can. So that's horrible. Plus, people are going to lose their jobs. That's the other side of this too. People are going to lose their jobs.
Yes, this administration that is all about, these people are coming in and taking our jobs. It's like you're getting rid of half the jobs. So, it's not about the jobs.
Yeah, that's just So, Tiff, what is one thing in fandom or pop culture that you're into or upset about or etc.?
Oh, yeah, definitely not about the jobs. Thanks for saying that, Carla,
Yeah.
because, if it was about the jobs, we would see people out there in the fields,
Yes.
getting the food
yeah.
together. So let's keep it real, y'all. You don't want a job.
No.
Because there's plenty of jobs to be had. It's the certain type of job that they don't want, though. I'm going to talk about this little story that Carla sent us regarding the lady who was held on felony stalking charges in a bizarre case where a wedding was held without the groom present
Yes.
and without his knowledge. This is insanity.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I know. That was my
'Cause it's
reaction
not
too when
funny.
I heard it.
Sorry.
We were talking about just how utterly incredulous we were that this reverend actually performed a ceremony for a groom in absentia. No proxy, no witness, just a bride, air quotes, who had a signed marriage license. So what ended up happening was they had a marriage license where he signed off on it because they were a couple and they were engaged. But, the groom, or the gentleman, I should say, decided, you know what? I don't need it. We don't need to get married. This is not going to happen. No, thank you. But apparently Miss kept the marriage license and went to her close friend, Reverend such and such, for him to perform, air quotes, this marriage without a groom there. What in the world is happening? This is madness. It's absolute madness. And let's see. She's been booked into the McLennan County Jail. And now I do have to say the Reverend did give a very good Chat GPT apology. It was fantastic.
He prompted it so well.
All of the,
A Chat GPT apology.
he nailed it. I mean, I felt the emotions. I felt all of the AI emotions. And his excuse for doing this in this, just well done apology. I mean, sir, chef's kiss to that apology. His excuse was that this woman was such a close personal friend. That's why he went on ahead and performed this air quotes marriage without a groom present, because she was such a close personal friend. Now, I don't know about you. I don't know about anybody else on this planet who would perform a marriage for a supposed close personal friend without one of the parties actually present. No proxy and no witness. How do you sign off on that, sir? Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, and you'd also think, like, if you're supposedly a close personal friend, why would you want to help someone who is obviously in big trouble, like, will be in big trouble legally, probably needs a lot of psychiatric help, and you're supposedly a good friend and you're just going to go along with this? That's freaky.
With this cuckoo bananas plan. Ma'am, what did you think you were going to accomplish by this? Did you actually think this man was going to stay your husband? Where was this going? It was going nowhere, ma'am. It was going nowhere. You were stuck on the tracks.
Yes. And the thing is, like, the way that the victim found out that this happened is because she sent him a package with photos and a letter saying you need to call your wife. Oh, and a copy of the certificate. Like,
oh my God.
I know. I know. And the thing is, like, thankfully, she sent it fairly quickly, because I don't know if he was able to get an annulment or what the whole thing was. But after a certain amount of time, you don't get to ask for an annulment. It's just a divorce.
Woo-hoo,
Yeah.
because now the Reverend, in his once again wonderful Chat GPT apology, did say that he was spring for the annulment. So that's about $300.
Because
So
he's
he
very
did
generous. As a man of God.
Monetary compensation.
That's so sweet of him. How nice.
How nice. How sweet.
That's very giving. Wow.
Such generosity in his heart.
Yeah. That reminds me, for some reason, of the clip I saw of this guy who was being interviewed who has, like, an AI girlfriend, quote unquote girlfriend, and he proposed to her.
Oh my God.
Okay. It's gone too far, people. It's gone too far.
Wow.
We are over the cliff.
Oh, yeah.
We are over the cliff.
We're so screwed. We are so screwed in so many different ways, but yeah. Okay, well, mine cannot top that. Like, even come close to that. I'm waiting. I'm sure there'll be a movie made about that,
Yes. Wait for it on Netflix and Hulu.
Yeah. Or a Lifetime movie will probably come too.
Love that. Lifetime movie for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe Hallmark Channel if they want to get a little dramatic.
Right?
They'll turn it into something really sweet and romantic.
Yes.
Well, I just kind of have a beef and a complaint here to pick with film talk and the film geek community on a couple of movies. The first one would be 28 Years Later. Now, I spoke last week about how my issues with the movie are just that it's trying to do too much at once. And while there's things I really liked, I didn't love it and what a letdown it was, yet I really loved the lead performance. And I'm really excited to see what Nia DaCosta does with the next one that's already been filmed and it's coming out in 28 weeks, by the way. It's exactly 28 weeks from the
That's
release.
clever.
28 years. Yeah, so it'll be coming out and spoilers, Cillian Murphy is in it. And so I am excited to see where it goes. But the discourse, if you do not like this movie, it is like you're an idiot. I saw this one whole TikTok where the person said, you don't get the themes. You must just be looking through TikTok content and you were just raised on The Walking Dead and you've never watched anything else and you're not using your brain. And it was trying to say this and this and this. And I'm like, I even replied in there. I'm like, hey, I understand it was trying to do a bunch of stuff. It just, to me, was doing too much. I'm glad a lot of people liked it. That doesn't mean I'm an idiot because I didn't like it. And this happens all the time, especially if a movie is thought of and described as elevated in any kind of way. And I love 28 Days Later. I think it's one of the best movies in the genre, in the horror genre, in the zombie subgenre, and everything. But I hate when people use that word elevated for any genre because it makes it sound like all the other stuff is crap and you shouldn't be watching it and it's all beneath it. It's the same thing is happening with the Materialists because there's such a hot debate about that movie. Like a lot of people hate it and a lot of people love it. Some are in between. And people that love it are describing it as like an elevated romance movie. Like you can't describe it as a rom-com or anything like that because, and it's not, I don't think it's a rom-com, but I mean like you can't describe it in that category because of the fact that it's above that. It's better than that. And so it's elevated and it's more artsy. And this is a problem you find a lot in the film community, film snobs. That's why, you know, like horror has always been thought of as like the ugly stepsister kind of thing to everything else because it's not as prestigious. And so then that's how you get stuff like elevated horror from A24. That's A24 horror is thought of as elevated horror. I hate that term so much because it's just different horror. It's not elevated. It's not above the other horror that people watch. It's just a different genre, or it's just quieter, or it's just whatever. It's horror. It's all horror. And any horror film can have a message, and then other horror films are just fun. That's fine. Who cares? It's fine to watch a movie just for fun. You don't have to find like a deeper meaning in everything. But also just please accept when people don't like a movie because of reasons, it doesn't mean they're idiots. Now, yes, I understand. I playfully say I can't believe people don't like this movie, or you get irritated. You know, if you love a movie, yes, it can feel almost personal when someone doesn't love a movie that you love. But at the same time, it doesn't make your opinion less valid or their opinion less valid. It's just art is subjective. And to tell people that don't like a movie that they're idiots and that they don't understand, and to do a whole TikTok about how I can guarantee that if you're a man and you didn't, and granted, I understand sort of where this person was coming from, but if you're a man and you didn't like this movie, I guarantee you don't get along with your mother or something. I think it was something like
Not the mommy issues. Oh my.
And I'm like, what? I mean, I sort of see what they're saying, but at the same time, I'm like, oh my gosh, sometimes people just don't like a movie.
People really,
let them have
yeah, people really get wild out there with their suppositions and accusations. Like, this person just doesn't agree with you on something basic. Get a life.
Yeah.
Build a bridge. Get over it. Has there ever been a movie that has been universally beloved universally, like every person
No.
that you come across has ever loved it. There's nobody that has a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, if it does, somebody didn't push the survey. If
Yes.
it does.
I mean, other than Eurovision Song Contest, the story of Fire Saga, there has never been a movie where everybody agrees on how great it is.
The only way that I would call somebody an idiot is if they didn't like The Lord of the Rings. I'm sorry. JK, I kid. Everybody's entitled to their opinions, even if they're wrong.
Yeah, I mean, like most people love Jaws, like think it is a spectacular film, and I recognize how it changed the industry. I think Jaws is one of the most boring films ever made. I cannot stand that movie, so spoilers, we are never covering that movie on here. I've seen it enough for my lifetime. Although I root for Jaws, of course, but people love it, and that is like blasphemous to say, you know. I don't like The Exorcist for very different reasons, but I don't like The Exorcist. That'll never be covered on this podcast for very, very different reasons than Jaws. But hey, that doesn't mean that I'm wrong to not like it or I'm an idiot not to like it, you know, so get over it. And then on the flip side, I also want to say, and granted, I've only watched one episode for the new season of The Bear, but on the flip side, because The Bear became such this popular thing, if I had listened to or looked at online discourse about season 3, I wonder if it would have colored my view on season 3, because everybody complains about season 3, and I'm like, I loved this season. I don't know. And I'm just curious about that. And I've heard mixed things so far about season 4, but I'm also seeing people post and say, this show was never good. This show has been overblown, and people just love to say that they like it. And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, then there's that side where people are like, since everybody loves this show, I'm going to be the cool person and hate on it because it's cool to hate on it. So there's the flip side of it too. So just try to let everybody love what they love and hate what they hate. As long as they're not hurting anyone, and they're not hurting you. So just let it be.
Yes.
Not like the Beatles. Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to try and cool everybody off, but in a good way.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want, like that dream house or ride, is a great feeling. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you save when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Okay, so it is summer. Summer sucks. No arguments. Unlike our last segment, I will not take arguments.
There are no arguments here. None whatsoever. None to be had.
And it is really hot in a lot of parts of the United States. And I understand also in other countries right now, they're dealing with really horrible heat as well. And so I just thought it might be kind of fun to talk about one thing in media or, you know, something that you would listen to or read to kind of cool you down. So the opposite of heating you up. So, Carla.
Well, speaking of Eurovision, Fire Saga, Song Contest, all of that, that's what I kind of go to. First of all, it's set in Iceland, and they're always wearing coats, and there's snow in some places. So it is presumably quite cold at that moment. And I like that. I like people being all toasty and shivery and imagining, ooh, I can feel that way too one of these days after the summer ends, maybe. And I think it's also a cool movie that I enjoy. So I find it to have a cooling effect in that sense as well. I also get the chills whenever I hear the song Lion of Love, because it's such a good song and it's silly and it's funny. And just, I play this movie for a lot of reasons. Basically, if you're going to have me on and ask, Carla, what thing do you put on when thing? And I'm going to be like, Eurovision Song Contest, the story of Fire Saga. Even though it has fire in the title, it's not about fire.
Aren't you all glad that I turned Carla onto Eurovision?
Oh, you were the one who turned her on to this? I totally forgot this.
I was the one who gave her the recommendation to watch this silly little ditty about a couple of folks from Iceland who just had a dream.
They just had a dream
They just had a dream to be a duo, an ABBA duo,
Yes.
instead of an ABBA quartet. It was just a duo.
They want it to be a streamlined
goodness.
ABBA. Is that wrong?
Yes. An efficient ABBA.
Yes.
And this
It's
is
a
what we've got.
recession.
Carla has now seen this movie 802
Yes.
times. And she
I
loves
love it.
every time she
It's
watches.
a recession era ABBA because they have fewer people because of layoffs.
I did have one question for you. Would you say your chills, are they multiplying?
Well, I'm losing control, so
I had to say that. I know it's not the right movie, everybody. Okay.
it's a musical. It's fine. It's close enough.
We'll go with it. It's fine.
Which, if you listen to some of the lyrics to some of the songs in Grease, oh my
Yeah, Grease Lightning and all of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love
I
that.
just think of Kaneki in the dance scene when he's on his back.
Yep.
It's just like, no, it's not right.
I love that movie, though. So I've seen it an embarrassing number of times. Although I'm not embarrassed. Never mind.
It's a good movie. And actually, one of my episode topics is going to be why Rizzo is the hero of Grease.
Yes, I agree with that. 100%. Yeah. So, Tiff, what's giving you chills?
You know what? I have chills because I've gotten through half of Sunrise on the Reaping, and it's reaping my soul, apparently, which has left me cold and in a state of just chilliness. So I'm barely feeling this 110 degrees right now. Just barely. No, but seriously, it's really good. It's really, really good. And that's coming from someone who absolutely adores the Hunger Games trilogy. I really love the Hunger Games trilogy. Books, people. Books, not movies. Sorry, Megan, wherever you are. Somewhere in the Midwest, or if you're still on the East Coast, I'm telling you now, you know how I feel about Pocket PETA, and you know how I feel about giant hats. So we're talking about the books. Absolutely. But it's really good. It's exactly what a prequel should be, because you get the feel and the flavor of the original, but with a fresh outlook from people that are way grown in the original series, I should say, the original trilogy. So just chef's kiss to Miss Collins. You have knocked it out of the park. I can't wait to finish the rest of the book. I have about halfway to go. So as soon as I get out of this, this 110 degree heat back to the lovely 90 degree heat of home,
A more
I will
reasonable
finish it
temperature.
up.
Yeah, and I also like PETA in the movies, but I haven't read the books. I only watched the movies. They were my birthday movies for whenever they would come out, because they always came out around my birthday. And I love PETA.
I love PETA. It's a foundational part of Agiro.
I think if you ever read the books, your estimation of Pocket PETA will change. If
Okay.
you ever read the books. That's not a knock on Josh Hutcherson. That's not a knock on his acting ability. It's just a knock on the casting of that movie with the two leads. Everybody else, well, no, I should say 2 leads and a gale. Let's say that.
Okay, well, I will keep that in mind. So I too think that, I like to watch stuff where it's like set in cold climates or something. Because I honestly do believe when you watch that, sometimes you can feel chilly and cold. So I'm going to recommend an underrated little horror psychological thriller movie that you can watch for free on Pluto and Tubi. And it's not the movie that talks about letting it go, but Frozen from 2010. So it's not the movie where she sings Let It Go. I haven't ever seen that other Frozen movie, but this movie is all about, I know this premise is going to sound really stupid, but go with me. It's all about 3 skiers that are stranded on a chairlift and are forced to make life or death choices, which prove more perilous than staying put and freezing to death. So they're on a chairlift at a ski resort, and they get stuck out there. Ski resort is closing down. It stars Shawn Ashmore, Emma Bell, Kevin Zegers, Ed Ackerman, and I just think it is really well done for a movie with a premise that sounds absolutely stupid, but it's really is a psychological thing, and I love the fact that it's in this very tight, compact thing of a chairlift. You have the huge woods, but then you have other things in the woods, and you have that it's freezing, it's cold, it's snowy. And I think when you watch cold, snowy stuff, you can feel that. So if you want to feel a little bit more frozen and you are not into animated films, then watch this Frozen from 2010. And it's just fun. I think it's a really, really underrated movie in this genre, and it has stuck with me since I watched it. I watched it pretty much 10 years ago, a little bit longer than that, and it has stuck with me since then. And I remember feeling cold when watching it. So that's what I recommend. And we all hope you can find some ways to cool down. Also, if you see a UPS driver, a U.S. Postal Service driver, anyone who's out there, they don't have air conditioning in their vehicles. So if you see them and you have water to give them, or you want to just say thank you that they're out there working in this heat,
Yeah.
do that. And let's fucking change that. That is so flippin' ridiculous.
Yes.
It's so,
What the heck?
that is so criminal.
Literally, what the heck? No air conditioning? What is this? A 1970, gremlin? What?
Yeah.
Why don't you have air?
I know. And recently a UPS driver actually died, was out. And I don't know if it was because of the heat. I was watching a TikTok and they were talking about it. But yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's criminal, frankly.
Yes.
So yeah. So that's why I love the people that, if I had the money to do it all the time, and I would trust that people around here wouldn't take it. I would leave out. I love when people have those coolers and they leave out stuff, for delivery
Yeah.
drivers. I think that's an awesome thing to do.
Let me just say, I briefly did a stint as a DoorDash deliverer, and I only saw it 2 or 3 times. But those few times when there was a cooler outside with some water, some protein bars, or snacks or whatever, it made my day. And it blows my mind that more people don't do that. Tipping is important when you're ordering something delivered to your home, but if you can just extend that extra kindness, I think that's just, you're helping make the world a little better place.
Yeah, I DoorDashed for a little bit too, and I totally agree. It only happened to me once, but it was whoa, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So, and you can watch TikToks of delivery drivers coming up and seeing that and how excited they are. And some are is this really okay?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's those little kindnesses that go a long, long way. So yeah. Okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Pop Culture and Fandom News. So thank you, Carla and Tiff, for joining me for this one. And we're going to go around and have everybody say where they can be found. And Carla from OK Real Quick, where can your podcast be found?
Thank you for asking, Erin. You can find OK Real Quick wherever you found this podcast. You can also find OK Real Quick social media with little clips of videos of me trying to pronounce things and not pronouncing them well and mixing up Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Edison, which, I mean, isn't really that bad considering Thomas Edison didn't really invent. Okay, doesn't matter. You can find all of that by looking for at OK Real Quick Pod. You can also find me, my art and my musings on Instagram and TikTok at Temis or my website, carlatemis.com. That's CarlaTemis.com. And I have been actually updating it with podcast stuff, including a page devoted to podcasts on which I've guested. And I'm like slowly trying to fill it in because I've been on a lot of episodes of It's a Fandom Thing. So there's a couple hundred in there.
You have? No.
I know, right? Erin, you're shocked. I know. It's like, how did I let you be on my podcast so much?
Oh, you're done? Sorry.
Oh, I'm done. Yes.
Sorry. So Tiff.
You can find me at Who Is Tiff Is Me on most of the interwebs. I'm mostly on the Discord with the sexy ladies and all of the other folks from It's a Fandom Thing pod crew. We talk about books, we talk about the theater, we talk about some politics, and then we talk about distractions from the politics. So come and give us a shout. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And Fergie the dog, she would probably love the movie Frozen. I haven't showed her that, but she would probably love it because she loves the snow. She hates the summer, hates the summer so much. She loves really cold weather, so she is not happy about this weather. Although she loves to go lie outside. We have a little tiny yard. She will lie out there. I never understand how dogs do this. And bake herself in the sun for like 10 minutes. She lies there with there's no shade. And she lies on a little black mat that's on the concrete. And it's just like,
oh my God.
And then she comes in.
That is wild.
And I'm like, well. And she's not, she can come in when she wants to. So, but yeah, it's so weird that dogs love to do that. I will never understand it.
No, thank you.
But they love it.
I like air conditioning and access to ice at the touch of a button.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so weird. But you can follow her on TikTok at Schroeder and Fergs. That's SCHROEDERANDFERGS. It's long, but it's worth it. To find all our past episodes, our social media, links to our Patreon, where for as little as $3 a month, you can get bonus content, ad-free episodes, early access to episodes. Carla and I just recently did an episode covering the movie Bottoms. We will be doing an episode covering season 4 of The Bear for our Patreon supporters. Not sure when that'll happen, but it'll happen sometime in the next couple months. And you also occasionally win prizes for our upcoming horror trivia event in October, which we do it annually. All of our Patreon supporters will be eligible to win stuff unless they're competing. Then they won't be. But most of them will be eligible. So stay tuned for more information on that. In the meantime, go to the Support Us tab on our website or click the link in our show notes to become a Patreon supporter today. And on Friday's episode, Carla and Tiff will be back to discuss some celebrity deaths that hit us the hardest. So it's going to be a heavy one. So until next time, remember, it's a fandom thing. Black Lives Matter, stop Asian hate, and free Palestine.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started DOGE. DOGE provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.